I've been to a lot of these Comic-Con screenings. That was something else. Very, very well deserved. All right, James, I'm beginning with you here. So I was reading that Jason Blum gets the rights to the original, and he specifically came to you to make a new movie. When he did, was it a no-brainer to sign on and say yes, or was there any trepidation because of how acclaimed the original one is?
Yeah, hi everyone. There was definitely trepidation. I mean, I love Christian's film, I thought it was fantastic. And I guess when you engage with something and have a conversation with it, it's sort of an act of flattery. You only do that if you think something is brilliant. But at the same time, as the conversation we've all had, you want to try and bring something new to it. Otherwise, sort of what's the point? You can see Christian's film, you can still see Christian's film. They can both have a conversation with each other, these two movies. But I thought, okay, I think by having American protagonists, setting it in England, and that was a big conversation that I had with them. I said I'll only do it if I could, and they were cool. But I thought we could just create something slightly different and a different energy and a different, lean into different things and explore a few different things.
Leaning into some of the thematic heft in this movie, do you credit any particular idea with kind of being your break story moment, the thing you came up with that made you say to yourself, I have a fresh take that will make this uniquely my own?
Well, Christian's film is very much about, how the social contract works, how we react with each other, how propriety and good manners, and how sometimes by, the line, because you let us, and I thought we could do that and we could explore that, but I also thought it'd be interesting to explore what happens when you get to a point beyond polite society in the third act, when all the rules are broken down and it's not just about, nobody's hiding anymore, and how people behave in that environment. So I thought there was something interesting in the third act that we could just carry on with.
Oh, we're going to get to that third act. I promise you that. James Mackenzie, I'll come your way now with signing on. I know you just flew in, so I feel bad throwing a two-parter your way, but two-part question about signing on for this movie. When you took these roles, what part of this production were you most looking forward to? But then I also want to know something you experienced along the way that made making Speak No Evil more creatively fulfilling than you ever could have imagined.
Oh, God.
I'll leave that one to you.
I'll take that, James. I don't think this thing is on. I'm just gonna speak like this. Or like this. I was really in it for the awkwardness. I thought it was so deeply uncomfortable, and knowing what that feels like to be like so unsure about what the right move is in any situation, to know if like you're gonna be the hero if you stand up for your family, or if you're gonna be like a bigot because you didn't understand like the sort of circumstances of the people that you're talking to. I think that's like quite a relatable condition that we're all in, and trying to be, sensitive and intuitive can sometimes fight against each other. And I thought that was really like fun and rich stuff to mine. And then why was it the most creative experience I've ever?
Something that surprised you.
Something that surprised me. This movie was really unusual in the sense that we shot it almost entirely chronologically, and so there was this like real pace feeling of, there was so much of the movie where I was like, I don't think this is a horror. Like we were just like hanging out and having sort of uncomfortable dinner parties a lot of the time, and then being like, oh no, I'm sorry, and then there was like 3 weeks at the end where we were like, oh, and that's the end of the movie. So yeah, that felt new and fresh.
James, you want to jump in on this?
I think the thing I got most excited about was walking a line between being somebody that the audience are enjoying spending time watching and being repulsed by the next second, and almost being able to toy with the audience. And that's something that I always enjoy doing, and I've been lucky enough to do that a few times in my career. But knowing that I'll be able to, hopefully anyway, if we do a good enough job, entertain you guys and then make you feel really bad about the fact that you enjoyed watching something, because 1 second it was enjoyable and the next minute it's absolutely repugnant as well. that kind of makes you judge yourself as an audience member, hopefully, on some level. Maybe not even like consciously, but on a kind of physical, kind of metabolic level. Metabolic? And then what surprised me, I mean, it's not a surprise that you end up working with good people, but the cast in this were incredible, and getting to work with you guys just really was just such a highlight. It's just me basically going like, oh, it was a fun time on set. They were just so much fun. There were so many anecdotes. I'd say James's script was brilliant, and I hadn't seen the original, and I promised myself I wouldn't watch the original until I was done, because I just wanted to approach it from somewhere fresh and new, and getting to dig into Paddy with James every day and kind of find this sort of this latter day sort of toxic masculine bit. Does he have a point? Is he a bit of a sort of back to roots guru as well kind of guy? Was just so much fun mining that every single day.
I'll lean into the ensemble here a little bit. Mackenzie, for you first. Are there any *Halt and Catch Fire* fans here? Yeah, that's what I like to hear. I was so happy to hear that you were reuniting with Scoot for this. So you worked with him before. You know how damn talented he is. Is there anything you saw him do on this set that made even you go, I knew you were great, but I never realized you were capable of that?
Well, I worked with Scoot for 4 years, so I know how talented he is, and I also know how unlike the character that he played on *Halt and Catch Fire* is to how he actually is. He is Paddy without the sociopathy.
He's way more
like,
Paddy than I am.
He's like survivalist man, like can do anything, can fix anything. Is
Kill
like,
anything.
Yeah. And he's so opposite to some of the characters that he plays, and I think one of his amazing talents is being able to like mine this, like, I'm never sure what pathos means, but it feels like the right word to use right now. This like pathos in him or in his characters that doesn't feel very present in the way that he lives his life as like quite a like survivalist like woodsman, and then he plays sometimes these beta characters that are full of an unspoken rage, and he's just brilliant at it.
He is really something else in this. You all are, and I know that you get to work with a great script, but I always find that when you get the opportunity to have a partner in a movie, like your scene partner in marriage, you wind up finding new elements of your character through your scene partner. So Mackenzie for Scoot and James for Aisling, can you tell me something you found in your own character that you know you gained from working with them?
Ooh. I think that one of the things that when I first read the script that really made me want to do this was the fact that there was this sort of the good guy couple who seem like good people, seem like nice people, and they have a relationship that you wouldn't want to have. And I'd go so far as to say the good people have a shit relationship. And then you have these really bad people, but you would definitely want to have the relationship with them. Because they are, the way we played it anyway, even though they hit each other at the end and stuff, like, I think they love each other, and they are so having sex all the time, and like they are into each other, but they're despicable. And I just liked that juxtaposition a lot. And I know Aisling and I were always trying to find the truth in them, not just the game, because they're definitely playing a game, and Paddy's definitely playing a game, and they're loving the game, but there is truth in there as well. So like the moment where the guys leave and we manage to bring them back by telling them the story of, or Aisling decides to tell the story of when we lost our baby, was it Mary? And we never really knew whether that was true or not, but we just decided in that moment it's 100% true. So there's like so much truth in Paddy and Kira, even though they're completely despicable gamesters who are out to kill eventually, you know. And finding that truth and pathos, and then at the same time as being absolute arseholes was so much fun.
And my answer is the opposite of that. No, I think the challenge with our part was like, how do you kind of convey a couple that, like, you know those couples that are so versed in therapy speak that they don't have to tell you they've been in therapy, but they're like, well, how I felt when you hit the dog was that was out of violence. And I think like finding a couple that like is in the midst of like trying to work it out, but it's not pleasurable, but they're both like still trying to keep it together, and not playing that as like one giant sort of disdainful eye roll for the whole movie was like something we both had to, like, there's a lot of like I don't know, give and take in relationships like that where you're constantly making little sacrifices that it's not a good relationship.
So, electric ensemble here, you're all wonderful, and led by an ace director. This is the make James blush portion of our conversation. Can you each tell me something about him as an actor's director that you appreciated and helped you exceed your own expectations for your work?
Can I just say it's really easy directing these actors, because it's like, you know, they're just playing tennis with each other. It's like the ball's coming back and they're hitting it back to each other. And I just need to keep out of the way and just, you know, turn over the camera and. You know,
It's very true.
What he says is really true.
Yeah.
I do believe that, but we don't avoid getting compliments during this panel.
I find sometimes when you work with a writer or director, you've got a sort of main line into their thinking and what they want before they've even opened their mouth, because they've already expressed themselves textually, subtextually to you before you've even had your first meeting. So you've got a shorthand already, which was brilliant. But so much of this film is about walking quite a tight line. Are we building too much tension? Are we dissipating the tension with too much comedy right now? Are we going too far with the scary stuff right now? Because really, it's about holding that tension as far as you can until it all kicks off at the end. And we were playing tennis and we were batting it back and forth, and there was loads of stuff that was real and fun and interesting and all that. But it was up to James to just make sure that we were still on that line, and he was amazing at keeping us from going too far that way or too far the other way. And of course, in filmmaking, you can fix these things in the edit sometimes. But really, if you go too far on the day, it's really hard to pull that back. And so it was very much like calibration, orchestration all the way through the shoot.
Yeah, agreed. And it was one of the most like collaborative experiences I've had from the very beginning. We had like a week of rehearsal of just sitting around the table and talking about the script, and there was such a sense of like the script is a living document, and we're gonna find that which is not always the way it is. People can be quite precious about it and tight, which is, you know, one way of working and fine, but it does make things a little harder to work with him. But it was really like once it was cast, James's priority was like letting us own each character and part of the story, and then all finding it together as well, and that carried through the whole experience filming, and it was just so fun.
To follow up on something, James, you just brought up, anyone can jump in on this. What scene in the movie was the most difficult to kind of calibrate that balance between, you know, the awkward comedy of the moment, but also making sure we could feel the horror of the situation?
I don't know, what do you think? I mean, I think the most difficult scene in the movie was probably the one where we actually finally have them tied up, and we're looking through the bank details and all that, because that was that was like all cards are on the table. There's no pretense anymore. But that wasn't hard for the reasons that you're saying there. But that was probably the one we sweated on the most. And then the actor strike happened, I think, the day before we shot it. So it was like, okay, let's do this big scene that we've been waiting for, and we're like all slightly tense about it because we don't know if it's right. We'll find it on the day maybe a little bit, and then it was 5 months later we got to shoot it. But I don't know, maybe the one sitting outside where we make the kids dance, or I make the kids dance.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, how cool do you get where like there is a point where like the lovely thing about this movie is it uses that horror trope of like, why are you don't go back, leave. Except it also like has the social contract where like you kind of get why they come back, because they made a big sort of social error, and that scene in particular I think is like, how far can you push his brutality versus like our, you know, you're not allowed to parent somebody else's child or criticize their parenting, and it felt like,
Well, it's our brutality and our bestiality against your like almost like civility and politity. I don't know. Making up words. I love though that when you said like it uses that horror thing where you go like don't go back, but you can't believe you go back. I just heard something go.
Yeah. It's like I'm just gonna keep
I
talking.
wouldn't fucking go back.
It was funny because it was a balance from the very beginning when you first see Paddy and he gets the pool and he gets the lounger and he pulls it and drags it and all of that, and it's always that for all of it. It was like, okay, how much is charming Paddy and how much is Paddy kind of being a bit of a dick? And it's like, you know, and it's just always walking that line. You want to have a bit of a red light, a bit of a green light, and also always keeping it real. And those are conversations James and I were always having. It's like, you don't want him to become a turn, you know, otherwise they're not going to buy into him. You know, he's a real guy and you have to sort of, he is charming and he's fun, and I think you're buying into his funness. He's the kind of, these people that break rules are often fun, and
well, he's playing a game as well, and I think it is really enjoyable watching somebody play a game. And the way they live their lives is they take from other people. They don't have to play this game to take from people, so they're doing it because they enjoy it. And watching somebody enjoy what they do for a living is really, really nice. But the other thing as well is, I think, as much as Louise is definitely less enamored with Paddy, I think somebody like Ben, he spies somebody like Ben very early, and if he's the hunter or he's the lion or whatever, he's looking for the most injured animal, the weakest animal, and he sees Ben, he's like, that's it. And he just knows that me being a dick to him even is going to almost inspire a reaction at this person. And I do not like people like Paddy, even though I've clearly enjoyed playing somebody like Paddy. I don't want to be with people who kind of go like, oh, I'm sorry, am I too much of a man for you? And then it makes you go like, oh no, I'm a fucking man as well, man. Fucking right? And you're like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't fucking walk like that, I don't talk like that. And Ben kind of gets like pulled into that a little bit, you know?
James, the answer to this might be no, but it did cross my mind while watching this, and I'll preface this question by emphasizing these are two completely different characters, but I was wondering if Split was on your mind at all, because the physicality of Paddy is so important, and there is a little bit of a dual personality in terms of balancing the appeal of him and also the horror of what he's up to.
Yeah, listen, even like before Split as well, like I have been so lucky to play people with duality in them and who walk a line between good and bad, not good and bad, but charismatic and repugnant, and that maybe be the crossover there, I guess. But I didn't think about it too much. Physicality wise, I just got lucky on this one because I just decided to lift heavy weights and eat too much food for about 2 years before I made this film, and when this film came along it was just like, oh, that works for the part. I didn't do it for the part, and I've since done a different thing and I've lost all that. But I was just really lucky, and I thought, oh, do you know what, this is going to blend nicely into the role. But I wanted it to be kind of softer for the beginning, and so I didn't do any of that pumping up shit in the first one, and I had the image, and I never really take things from other actors or other movies and stuff, but I did have the image of Ray Winston in Sexy Beast, just with like his belly had just been so comfortably masculine, he didn't care that he was like that, and just like in his shorts and his shirt open, and I thought, I kind of wanted to emulate the kind of soft masculinity of that, and then by the end of the movie you're all like doing push-ups before every take and stuff.
Seriously, always an ace at having that kind of duality in your characters, and it makes them so complex and interesting, and it encourages me to watch your movies multiple times, this one included. I'm going to jump into the ending for everyone. You are some of the first people to see this movie, so tell everybody how much you love it. Don't tell anybody these spoilers we're about to talk about. James, I have to know about coming to the conclusion that this was the right ending for your movie. Why make the change, and why did this third act feel most fitting for the themes you were exploring?
Should we tell the guys what the ending of the original movie is then first to preface that? No? Just because we're talking about why we changed it, but what did we change?
I was treating it like, and if you know, you know, and if you
Right,
don't
okay.
know, you should go watch the original.
Yeah,
but
okay.
this is
The original film has a brilliant, very, very dark ending. But the couple, I felt the couple, partly who they are. I think that Christian's film works with the Danish characters, and it's all this kind of satire of their compliance and how they don't fight back or any of that. I felt with these American characters at some point, and for an American audience, you have to feel they're in mortal danger, their child's in danger. They're going to try something, right? Try to run, try to fight, try to hide, try to do something. But I also felt it was quite important that they didn't suddenly become Navy SEALs in the day, right? I hate that in movies when they suddenly become, these ordinary people suddenly become like John Wick, and so it's very deliberate that they're a bit crap. Huh?
Mackenzie worked.
So, but you know, they're very deliberately a bit, you know, not great and fumbly and comedic, and then also Scoot's character Ben, who through the whole movie has been looking at Paddy thinking, is this the version of masculinity that I aspire to be? Well, he kind of drops the ball, you know? And it's Mackenzie, it's you know, it's Louise so it's not a gender thing, it's like, you know, so all these notions I wanted to pursue right to the end, but also to go, okay, well, you know, how do you react when you're confronted with this? And I think most people, when they're confronted with it, are just fucking terrified, you know? So, yeah, I thought it was a really interesting way just to push the movie into a different space.
I also think that Paddy's so confrontationally toxic throughout loads of the film. His opinions are quite often debated well, but ultimately when you get to the bottom of it, not helpful and not right and not good. And ultimately, if he doesn't get it at the end, you kind of validate them a little bit. You validate the audience having enjoyed spending time with him a little bit. He needed to be judged by the film as well as just beaten, you know, I think.
Squeeze in one more question before I let you go. I'm very into the Mackenzie Wick idea, but I also really do like the quality of that third act where like you are a human being fighting back. Is there any particular performance nuance you can point out that kind of makes that happen? Like something where she's fighting back effectively, but it's not that kind of clean action star Hollywood version. Like there's some error in it.
She's wearing these marigold rubber gloves.
I think the way my body moves lends itself to this person isn't trained.
Oh, come on, we've seen you move like an absolute like warrior as well, though.
But there's definitely the what's it called when you put liquor in a bottle and then a Molotov, it's probably a collision bomb. But that scene, we shot it once, and we were kind of too good and very like, get down, go down, and like had the whole thing planned out, and then we shot it again where we really were like, oopsie daisy, and it just works better because it is like if I encountered a Molotov cocktail, I don't know when it blows up. If it blows up the second that you like, I saw it in a movie the other night. And was like, let it go. Like I don't know the mechanics of that, so I would want it out of there as soon as possible and would be freaking out the whole time. And I think you were so good at finding that tone again and again of being like, they gotta suck at this.
I love the bit where you spray peroxide or bleach in my eyes, and as you're like clearly beating me, you're also like,
A+ stuff. I could keep you here all night talking about this movie. I'm not allowed. Before I say something that I know is going to get drowned out by applause here, I have to ask everybody when we wrap this to stay in your seats because they have a lot of promoting to do and have to zip off to another event. But I'm going to say a huge thank you to all of you for being here. Spread the love.
thank you so much, guys. Thank you.